Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to the videos of the paid request. It's time for Edward. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Links are in the info box. It could be for pretty much any type of video, and I will get to it as soon as I can. But Edward wanted me to look into 2 more episodes of Static Shock, Season 1, Episodes 8 and 9. Now, I've been fairly critical of Static Shock, the show, of being pretty mediocre, maybe at best average. I will say episode 8 at least attempts to go a little bit further with its story, with its plot, dealing a little bit about racism. So at least there's an attempt there at something, which I could appreciate that. In this episode, Virgil, Static Shock, is with his buddy Richie, and after Static fights some bad guys, fights this bird lady, fights Mr. Shadow, the main bad guy, Ebon, Nova Ball is what he calls it, like a Nova Ball shot right to the bad guy. Beats the bad guys, everything's fine, they're going to watch some videos. Interesting the fact their choices are Shriek 3 or Homie Alone. Part of me wants to wonder what the hell the movie Homie Alone is. Is it Homie Don't Play That from In Living Color? His version of Home Alone? I kind of want to see that. Damon Wayans as Homie, beating people up while he's home alone. Homie, don't play that shit. So Virgil's asking, well, how come we never go to your place? We're always at my place. You see Richie's a bit nervous. Ultimately does invite his buddy. He's there, his mom's there, but his dad's not there. But then everything seems to be going fine, but his dad comes home early for work, and you find out that Richie's dad is pretty much racist. The mom says, well, the son goes, I told you about him, and the dad goes, well, not nearly enough. About how rap is all garbage, and it tears down what we all built. He's a bad influence, all their kind are. All their kind all. And they are you serious? But at the same time, granted, you can't do this with every episode because it would get redundant, it would get too preachy, it would get too... Nowadays you call woke, all that other stuff. But I mean, to have that touched on makes things at least a bit more serious, a little bit more getting to know the characters of Richie and Virgil and their friendship. The way Virgil behaves is pretty stand-up for him. And what I mean by that, basically a stand-up guy, where Richie's apologizing and Virgil's like, well, it's not your fault. Even later, when Virgil's talking to his dad, and the dad's like, are you okay? And he goes, I'd be even cooler with a new stereo. Well, don't be that cool. So the fact that, Virgil's not weeping, act like he's got PTSD and crying in his bed or something. I'm not saying you shouldn't feel bad because it's a dickhead thing that guy said. But I just like the way it was played up here. I thought it was refreshing. And it's Richie himself that says, Dad, I'm tired of you and your stupid racism, and calls his dad out on it. He runs off. Virgil, aka Static Shock, is looking for his friend who's wandering the streets. Richie gets taken by Mr. Shadow. Richie tricks him into... He's able to reveal where he's at. Richie's dad is looking for him and meets up with Virgil's dad. I do like that Virgil's dad's giving him kind of the honest treatment of, oh, you're a fine, upstanding bigot, aren't you? Pretty much those two find Richie. Static Shock saves the day, defeats Mr. Shadow Man. And Rich's dad actually tries to help Static Shock later on does apologize for his behavior, gets back with his son in terms of being a family again. I mean, it would have been nice if he really went up and apologized to Virgil. Like, he apologized to his son, but I'm like, well, the other guy you should be apologizing to is right there, too. Like, hey, you know what, let me invite you to family dinner. Something to that effect. I think that would have been a bit more impactful for the ending. To really see that Richie's dad's really taking the extra step and I didn't let me invite you into this. So I wish they would have went a bit further with that ending. But as is, at least I give credit that it took the risk to go in that direction to talk about such a serious issue in this show. Well, like I said, the animation I thought is still average. The action scenes are kind of meh. Maybe because I'm not really that impressed with Static's powers, or it's not impactful like Batman, or it's not as kind of fun in this creative. What will he do with his web, and what will he do with his other aspects like Spider-Man? I guess you say it's passable, the action. But I said I do appreciate that they went a bit further than other episodes, so it makes it stick out more, stand up out of the crowd more. This episode I appreciate. Episode 9, I didn't like nearly as much. Pretty much there's this fat bully that I swear tries to sound like Fat Albert. Hey, 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 how's it going? Like, he has that tone of voice like Fat Albert. And he's bullying people, and you find out he's got these wind powers, and he calls himself Slipstream. And he decides to cause some chaos. Meanwhile, Virgil and Richie are fighting. And at first it seems like Richie, yes, he's always there with Virgil. And Virgil's like, can you stop bugging me about Static Shock stuff? So I do get that, but the way it begins, it seems like Richie, all he's doing is trying to help. He gives you equipment in case you're low on power, which we've seen you've had trouble with that before, where you almost die because of it. So your friend making this weapon equipment for you is a pretty good thing. Then at one point, okay, you want to spend time with this girl, of course, but he's like, well, we should be training because he doesn't want you to get hurt. As he puts it, when a Bane baby wipes the floor with you because you're out of practice, don't blame me. He's the one that warns Static, hey, this bad guy is here with these wind powers. People need help here. Now he does screw up where he decides to try to help some more. Virgil has to protect him, and then they both get kind of defeated, and Slipstream gets away, and that's when they get into more of a verbal fight, and they break up, so to speak. Granted, and I pause because it's a bit weird to have this episode right after the previous one, because the previous one is like trying to really cement their friendship, where Richie's apologizing and Virgil's like, hey, no matter what, we're friends, we're buddies. And Richie's very appreciative of that. And the reason he was so mad, one of the reasons he was so mad about his dad was because he was afraid that his friendship with Virgil was gone. And Virgil's like, no, we're still cool. Then immediately after they go into, oh, they're breaking up, they're not friends anymore. It seemed like this may be an idea that could have been saved, a few more episodes later, perhaps. And I don't know. I mean, them when they're separated, it just I didn't really think there was much interesting drama with that and so forth. And of course, they don't get back together, which they do because Slipstream is causing problems yet again. Richie rides in with a scooter to help Static. Static takes one of the equipment Richie has and is able to power himself, and then do this thing where it screws up Slipstream and defeats him. And I say the action scene is kind of there. There's not much for me to talk about because they're kind of, in my opinion, forgettable. There's not a whole lot of really deep, meaningful conversation. But you think, well, are you expecting that for a cartoon? I did it, but I didn't because we saw a bit of that in the previous episode, episode 8. I said, okay, well, now you're showing that you do a little bit more than the average show with episode 8. Continue that. Episode 9, let's have like one or two decently meaningful conversations. And because again, I can't really marvel at the animation. I said it's average. The line of villains, okay, he's a fat guy who has wind, thankfully not out of his ass. Yes, I should be thankful for that. Try to sound like Fat Albert, so I couldn't take him seriously. Hey, 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 how's it doing? Hey, hey, hey. Is Bill Cosby around drugging people? Hope not. Watch out, Richie, don't drug you. And them getting back together seemed like, okay, well, the plot just determines they're friends again because we only got this much of the running time left, so let's do it. So it was what it was. Like I said, maybe if the style of the animation was a bit more memorable, whether it be like a Samurai Jack, which I think of that because Phil Lamar voiced that character too, as well as Virgil, aka Static Shock. Or if Static's powers were a bit more unique or fun to watch on a visual statement, visual palette, or I don't know, maybe there's a bit more witty dialogue. Maybe I expected too much of the show, but maybe I'm spoiled because I've seen these other cartoons that they have flaws as well, but they just had a lot more X-Men in the 90s. Like they just a lot of them of the superhero kind, X-Men, Spider-Man, Batman. They just had a bit more oomph to them compared to this. That's just the way I see it. But episode 8, I do give credit where credit's due, so I do appreciate that. So, with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. Thanks once again, Edward. And we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye for now.